be going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are going live now.
Good morning, Owasso. This is the Twins with Owasso Live, and this is the Morning Loop. It is currently 8 a.m. The temperature outside is about, oh, excuse me, I didn't have that pulled up. Sorry, guys. It is 36 degrees outside. It did not feel like 36 degrees outside this morning, though. My car windshield was iced over, so if it was 36 about an hour ago, I find that hard to believe. However, according to this, it is 36 degrees. We have a high of 70 today, so thank goodness for that. Finally, the temperature is getting back up to where it should be about this time of year. Doesn't feel like spring anymore the last couple of days, that's for darn sure. Now, traffic conditions are slow and steady going into Tulsa right now. Again, you got to worry about that 76th Street on-ramp onto 169. That is your, as Kenny Loggins says, your danger zone over there. Or if not a danger zone, definitely a hot spot or your congestion point for sure. So keep that in mind as you commute in. It's a little slow over there. Traffic is backed up here to on past the Y. So be advised if you're driving into Tulsa at the moment, it's not going to be a quick commute right now. So with that being said, there's really nothing going on locally today for the Owasso Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce is done for the week.
So the only things we got are the Easter egg hunts put on by the city and the church. So
yeah, and I'll pull those times up again just real quick. Let me see here.
Excellent.
I'm pulling it up on the big screen right now. All right, here's what we got. On the 30th of March from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Baja Jack's Burrito Shack, it is the Okie Pet Rescue Breakfast Fundraiser. And again, that is at Baja Jack's Burrito Shack at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the directions there is 19045 North 121st East Avenue.
Yeah, up there in Smith Farmers Market.
Yep, that's correct. And then on the 30th as well, the Renola Park East Community Easter Egg Hunt, which I'll zoom in on this real quick just to make sure. Yeah, 10,000 eggs scattered across the park, divided into groups by age, and get appropriate prizes, whatever, from 9 a.m. Registration starts at 9 a.m. and the hunt begins at 10 a.m.
Good Lord.
So, fun event for if you got any kids out there that you want to go. Take them to, and then the Discovery Easter Egg Church, the Discovery Church Easter Egg Hunt is on the 31st from 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Excellent.
And that's pretty much all the events going on in Owasso today. The only thing I'll bring up today regarding sports is our OKC Thunder lost to the Rockets last night. It was 132 to 126. So we just said that later in the season it gets playing all these games back to back.
Yeah.
Our guys get tired and we just don't have
the bench
depth.
strength.
Yeah, we don't have the bench strength to keep up with these other teams, and we've sunk down to third in our conference right now.
No,
but we're still tied. We're tied with the Timberwolves right now, and I guess the Nuggets lost last night too. But remember, they still have one extra win, so that's how they're able to stay up in there.
It's still going to be a long. The season's wrapping up, but I mean, they still got a lot of games left to play. So
exactly,
a lot of things can change.
Yep. But let me pull up their games real quick because we do have one last game. We have another game coming up tomorrow. We're playing the Suns tomorrow at 7.
All right, cool beans.
Hopefully, we can come back with a W and stay and get back up to the lead. Hopefully,
God willing.
But that's it. That's all I've got going on today. But unless we go over high school stuff, which I know, we don't have a lot of time. We'll be going into each and every sport. That's why we kind of stick to the big three: football, baseball, and basketball.
So, moving on, we'll go on to national news. So, I guess we'll kind of rehash a little bit of what we talked about yesterday, or maybe under different context. But so Jon Stewart, we talked about Jon Stewart yesterday. Jon Stewart was a big part of my childhood, was a big part of my early political and formative years growing up, because again, he has a big platform. He had Comedy Central, and Comedy Central was, you had South Park, you had a lot of you had the Man Show, you had the Crank Yankers, right? Is it the puppet show? So you had a lot of fun programming. Maybe again, you might have been a little bit too young to watch some of the stuff at my age, but like I said, teenage years, preteen, teenage years, you're kind of wanting to watch that stuff at that time because you think you're more adult than you actually are. And but yeah, Jon Stewart, that'd be like the last thing you watch after the last episode of South Park. You'd be watching Jon Stewart after that, and he would talk about politics and make it in a fun way. And like again, he's back at the Daily Show now, and he was talking about how, Trump's Mar-a-Lago properties, the judge here in New York that's making a ruling on his properties in Florida, and I said not a criminal judgment, not a civil judgment, a summary judgment, where she just goes, yeah, we declare you guilty. So she declared that his properties in Mar-a-Lago were fraudulent. A New York judge declaring a property in Florida is fraudulent. That's pretty crazy. The state of Florida should be absolutely livid about this. So apparently, Jon Stewart has done the exact same thing. He had a 7,000 square foot condo or something in New York, and the government valued his property at $1.8 million. He sold the property for $17 million. So if we're going to follow the same
logic train
that they're using to prosecute Trump for his Mar-a-Lago properties, Jon Stewart is guilty of the exact same thing. And I imagine and again, Kevin O'Leary is guilty of this stuff. And that's why Kevin O'Leary's freaking out about this. He's like, hey, this is bad. And that was the whole point. Jon Stewart in his latest show was criticizing Kevin O'Leary for his takes, going, well, yeah, but Trump's this, and this too, so it's okay to go after him. It's like, but the point is, if they do this to Trump, they're setting legal precedent, which means they can go after anybody for it. Then Jon Stewart's just tickled pink that they're going after Trump, but eventually they're going to come after him too if they set this legal precedent, which means, yes, we can go after our political enemies. Doesn't matter if they're right or wrong in their assessment of their property. And again, if you're going to sell your property, you're going to want to value your property as high as possible so you can make as much money off the deal as possible. Why wouldn't you? If you're living here in Owasso and the house next door sold for $500,000 and you're like, well, my house is just as big and I built a deck in the backyard. I think my house should be worth $50,000, maybe $100,000 more because of that. You have the right to do that. You might not get what you're asking for it, but if you value your property that high and you can actually get that additional $100K out of it, why wouldn't you? Sure, they might be like, okay, we only think it's worth an additional 50 more, and you can bargain and negotiate. But if you could sell it for the price that you wanted to sell it at, who is the government to dictate that you can't do that? Just think about that, folks. That's what we're talking about here. Without personal property rights, the personal property rights is the foundation of America. If we don't have the right to own our own stuff, and the government can dictate what your property's worth and whether or not you get to live there and stay there, you don't have a lot of rights in this country anyway. So keep that in mind. So Jon Stewart he showed his political partisanship, his political hacker. He goes, yeah, but all this other stuff. And I go, we're not talking about any of the other stuff. And again, he's like, but Trump's an insurrectionist. He wasn't convicted of insurrection. The Senate and the Congress did not convict him of that. So keep that in mind, folks. You might the media has made you think, they've conditioned you to think that he's been convicted of it, but he hasn't. Congress didn't convict him. The Senate didn't convict him. They had trials and hearings, and they're still arresting people who were involved in the January 6th riots. Yeah. But no, he was not convicted of anything.
Yes, the big problem right now is he's convicted in the court of public opinion.
Yes.
But that's not, the court of public opinion, thank God, isn't a court standard.
Yeah.
Because that's frontier justice. Someone doesn't realize is that's frontier justice. Public opinion is frontier justice. Like, the catch up to the bad guys or whatever, and they go, let's vote to hang this guy. Everyone, say about 80% of the people there vote to hang the person. Well,
justice is when the sheriff rides in that group of people and says, no, he's going to stand trial.
He's got to stand trial. Now, he can still be convicted via,
by a court of law.
Mm-hmm. But at this time, like I said, it's not just,
And yeah, to those of you who aren't paying attention, he was convicted in a court of law. It's like, no, he wasn't. There was no court case. It was a summary judgment. An arbitrary summary judgment based on a judge's opinion. No cases were brought up against him for his Mar-a-Lago properties. This is just a judge using her power to politically affect Trump during election season so that she can make sure that his money's not being spent on his campaign. It's being spent on court bills.
Yep. Which I agree that it is definitely hampering his ability to campaign, but also at the same time, it still is bringing me. Every time they do something like this, it's bringing media attention to him.
Absolutely.
So it's still not exactly taking, taking time off of his campaign trail, but he's still getting media attention.
Absolutely. So just keep that in mind, folks. So Jon Stewart is a political hack. If that's the case, if what Trump's done is wrong, Jon Stewart should be the next guy that goes in jail right behind him. If you think that's okay, if you think what's happening is justice, then Jon Stewart's next, and anybody who's made money off of a home sale that their property was deemed higher than what the government valued it, then you're going to jail too.
Any person who bought a home for less than what they sold it for is now a criminal.
Yes. Or sold it for more than what it was worth is a criminal. Period. So keep that in mind, everybody. You don't want Big Daddy government telling you what you can and can't do and arbitrarily dictating what the price of something is.
Truth. So
keep that in mind, folks. Now, we'll kind of move on to more cultural news after that Jon Stewart, Donald Trump stuff. Now, I'm not even sure how to begin this particular subject, but if you don't know who Hassan Piker is, congratulations. He's a Twitch streamer who got his start. He originally started off as like a pickup con artist, coach, life dating advice. Like he'd dress up in like suits and give frat bros advice on how to pick up chicks and get them in bed. That's how he started his career. And then he made the shift over to the Young Turks. And if you don't know what the Young Turks is, again, congratulations. But the Young Turks is the largest news network on YouTube. And it's run by a guy named Chink Uygur. And he used to be a contributor to MSNBC, and he was too radical for MSNBC. And MSNBC is the farthest left publicly that a company can be, openly. So if he's too left for them, that's pretty crazy. Now, he was too left for them back in the early to mid 2000s, so they were a little bit more moderate back then. Now they've made that shift where we're losing viewerships, media's dying, so they've just gone full opinion and less news. So that's the Young Turks is actually it's the fault of the Young Turks that the mainstream media has gone as horribly biased as they have been. Now, with that being said, this Hasan Piker kid went to go work for his uncle. His uncle is Chink Uygur at the Young Turks. And he eventually moved on and became a Twitch streamer after he gained a following and popularity on the Young Turks. But again, he also left the Young Turks because his uncle kept scolding him for his views being so radical and so crazy. Because this is the kid that said America deserved a 9/11. And he's the kid that also got involved in that controversy where he said Dan Crenshaw was wounded and got his eye blown out by a brave Mujahideen Islamic soldier. I said, as much as and I'm not a huge Dan Crenshaw guy, but I mean, you don't tell your viewership in the world that it's a good thing that Dan Crenshaw got his eye blown out by a brave soldier. Calling the other soldier brave and saying that Dan Crenshaw's and being a Navy SEAL is a coward. So this is really more of a PSA to you parents out there. If you have kids
and you don't know what they're watching,
ask them. It's like probe them. Be like, hey, do you know who Hasan Piker is? And if they do, ask them their opinion on him. And if they like him, you got some deprogramming or some indoctrination you need to start undoing on them because he is as radical as they come. I mean, this is a guy that says babies are colonizers. He said it was a good thing that there are dead babies in Israel because babies are colonizers. This is a guy that said, again, America deserved 9/11.
He's pretty radical, and this comes into being a good parent. If you don't know what your kids like
And what they're
their interests
consuming.
are,
Mhm.
you're, in my opinion, I don't think you're that great of a parent.
Yeah.
Because you need to know what your kids are doing, who they're talking to,
Where they're getting what media they're consuming, what forms of entertainment they're consuming, because everything has been inundated and indoctrinated with left-wing dogma garbage, is all I can say.
Yes,
And
I would agree with that.
It's pretty crazy now. So again, probe your kids, ask them if they know who this Hassan Piker guy. And it's a good thing though too. So the benefit of this story is that Hasan Piker has lost about 40% of his Twitch audience. He has millions of subscribers on Twitch. He's lost about 40% of them because I think a lot of people are coming to the realization that it's a grift. You know, he's a big-time socialist, big-time he's a communist. And he doesn't put his money where his mouth is. He's made millions of dollars off of these dumb kids who follow him, who, you know, give him their Twitch money, and he gives them garbage opinions and garbage advice. And I think a lot of kids have just realized that it's a grift because he's living large in a multi-million-dollar home in the most expensive state in the Union, California, in Los Angeles.
Yep. And he advocates for
communist policies, but he doesn't put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, and pro-union policies, and all the people that he works are independent contractors that barely get paid anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. He's just... It's all socialists, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is he says he comes from humble beginnings. He doesn't. His dad's involved in the Turkish government. He's like Turkish royalty. And he's acting like he's some type of, you know, he's one of you. He's a man of the people. He's not. He's a foreign diplomat's son. Lived in luxury his entire life. Grew up riding $1 million horses. So, if your kids know who this guy is, that's bad. And again, moving on to culture video game stuff. They're probably consuming this stuff on Twitch. You have to be careful what your kids consume because, again, I don't think the LGBT community, I don't think this trans indoctrination stuff would be as strong or as powerful as it is if it wasn't for things like TikTok, social media, video games. All this stuff is being inundated in all of this stuff. China's algorithms are promoting the worst of our society here in the United States through TikTok.
Yep. It's like we go back to talking about that. What does Chinese TikTok promote?
Yeah. Science.
Science, math, acts, great acts or deeds or feats. And what is
family values.
Family values.
Like,
and what's
some of the big TikTok trends are like Chinese women with it's daughter, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and they're all together standing in a line. Those are the TikTok trends in China. That's what they want.
And ours are girls shaking their butts and boys putting on makeup and dresses.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And that's what's so scary. You got to be aware of what your kids are consuming. If they're on TikTok, if their head is constantly down on their phone like this, at dinner, throughout the day, throughout school, you got to get them out of that. You got to get them involved in sports. You got to get them involved in weightlifting. You got to get them involved in martial arts. Something to get them away from their phones and something to want to better themselves into. And even if that's just studying for college or playing an instrument. But the culture is so grabbed by this LGBTQ stuff that you just have to be aware of it. Again, I don't think half the kids that are involved in this trans community stuff would be in, like, again, they're talking to these crazy groups of trans activists and stuff. And if they're not communicating with them, they're just watching them on TikTok being like, oh, I want to be like them. Yeah. That looks like fun. I guarantee you, your kids are not walking down the street talking to their local transgender or their local, drag queen. They're not doing that. Your kids aren't walking down the street going, oh, Jim Bob next door is our drag queen story hour person. That's not happening. If that was the case, you'd be like, get this weirdo away from my child. But no, they're these weirdos and these degenerates in society are reaching out via social media, or reaching out and if they're not reaching out like via Messenger, they're influencing them through their TikTok posts, through their Instagram posts, through their stories.
It's like, what was the one that, our sister kind of liked to watch for a little bit. It was that one dude that put on makeup. He did
Is
makeup
James Charles?
tutorials. I think I
Did she
don't know.
watch him? I don't know.
I don't remember. I just remember I thought that was the weirdest thing in the world. And then it turned out that he had a bunch of allegations come out about him, and he was this really bad.
He was a predator.
Yeah,
he was a
it was
gay predator.
Mhm. But it was very strange. Like I said, that's the thing. You find out about all these people is, and that's the issue is why kids want to emulate them. And this is the problem is like they're finding out that these people are got endorsement deals that are worth millions of dollars, and you tell an 18-year-old kid, oh, if you do what this kid does,
Yeah.
this kid's making six figures right now as an influencer or whatever.
Yeah,
That's the issue.
It's an attractive lifestyle because all you do is you talk on your phone all day. People watch you and pseudo worship you, and then you get endorsement deals from makeup companies who are just like, oh, hey, this guy's got 1 million subs. If we get this, we can capture his entire audience for our product. Boom. Now that's 1%. Again, it's like when girls sign up for OnlyFans. It's like going, oh, the girl that I work with at work makes $7,000 a month on OnlyFans. Selling pictures of her booty. It's like that's 1%. The vast majority, like 90% of girls on OnlyFans make like $200 a month.
You'll be hungry for the rest of your life.
You'll be hungry, and you'll be worse for the wear because you've sold your soul and your body like a prostitute for nothing, for $200 a month. That's the vast majority. Now some girls will make it, and like I said, you might be hot for a little bit, but again, you're having these parasocial, parasitic relationships with guys who just
Don't
want you
care
to do
about you.
weird stuff for you. It's like, hey, I want you to sell me a pair of your underwear. It's like, and girls will do it. Like, I mean, they might just send a pair that they just bought at the store and not have ever worn them, but still, they're gonna, they're like, I'll pay you $500 for that. That's the kind of stuff you're talking about.
Yeah. What's that girl that sold her own bathwater?
Yeah,
That
Belle
weird
Delphine.
girl?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just weird, and like the kind of person who would buy used bathwater from a girl. These are not the people you want to be communicating with or selling stuff to. Like, there's like something wrong with you mentally if you're like, yeah, I want to buy some of that girl's bathwater. It's like, what is wrong with you? Like, this is crazy. This is the degeneration of our society. And everyone's like, oh, that's cool. It's cool. It's like it's cool if that she made money. That's it. The idea of it is not cool. The fact that that's a normal thing now is not cool. It's weird. It's disgusting. I really don't understand. Well, I mean, I understand. Like I said, monetary incentive is the most powerful incentive we have in society right now, and that's not good. But like I said, this is why we need to drive back home values. Good Christian values. Let your daughters know that they're worth more than a couple of $100 to sell a picture of themselves to some creepy weirdo. I mean, I can't tell you. I was dating a girl who employed a lot of young girls. Like she owned a business where she employed younger girls to be her employees, and I would sit there and talk to. Oh wow, there's a Daytona Charger driving down that's just like yours. Sorry, but she employed young, and I was talking to some of these girls, these younger girls, and they would tell me that they had apps on their phone. Like, and these were like 18, 19-year-old girls, and I was just like, what? And I was like, what? See, there it is on the.
I see it.
Yeah. So, or you might go check the parking lot, make sure nobody stole it. So these girls, they had these sugar daddy apps downloaded on their phone, like Sugar Daddy app or something like that. And literally,
the first thing you do is you stop and you go, "What's your relationship like with your father?"
Yeah, pretty much. But I'll tell you this, non-existent when I was speaking to them. But
I figured.
Yeah, and these girls were like, "Yeah, I have a guy who paid me $7,000 for a picture of me in a bikini." Like $7,000.
18-year-old girls making $7,000 to do nothing.
These are little podunk girls from Sperry, Not saying they're bad girls by any stretch of the mind, but what incentive does she have? Like, they don't have the incentive to go out and acquire skills. Like, why wouldn't you just stay on that sugar daddy app and have these parasocial relationships with these older guys? Like, yeah, it's like the girls literally like, yeah, he asked me to send me some of my underwear or something. And I was just like, okay, cool. And then I just bought a fresh pack of underwear and then mailed him one. Just like, that is weird. That is strange. Like, and then the other one was like, yeah, one guy asked me for some pictures of my feet, and I was like, what?
This is what social media is turning. This is why, I honestly don't believe that kids should have cell phones until they're like 18 years old. Like, at least a smart one. Like, just get your kid a flip phone, because all you're doing is you're giving predators access to your kids.
Yeah.
And as soon as girls find out that there are dudes out there that like them just for being women, basically, or just being pretty or whatever, it's over. And then
you got to teach your daughters self-worth, and we have to teach men to take responsibility. Like, girls need to preserve their innocence, and men need to go out and perform and become great. And that all comes from Christian values. Make sure. And like I said, I realize probably not everybody who's listening and watching, we live in the Bible Belt, so I imagine the vast majority of people here are Christian or some variant of Christianity or Judaism. But, folks, teach your kids their self-worth and value. Teach them that their bodies are temples. Their bodies are temples for the Lord. Don't be putting junk food in them all the time. Take care of themselves, work out, become the best version of yourself. For boys and girls. And again, as parents, be aware of what they're consuming. You're the one that instills the values in your kids.
What's the Jordan Peterson rule? Don't let your kids become someone you hate.
Yeah, don't let your kids do anything that you dislike.
Or that would cause you to hate them.
That would cause you to dislike them. Like, if you wouldn't want to be friends with your kid, and you have to, it's tough because they're your kids. You have that familial love for them, but pull yourself back and be like, would I be friends with my own kid? You might have to think about that, and objectively, and that's a tough thing to do. So keep that in mind. Don't let weirdos reach out to your kid, and especially if you have daughters, check their apps. Make sure they don't have any communication with weird older men, because you're weirdos now, whether it be the trans community, the gay community, whether it be old men who are courting your daughters, be advised. That cell phone, this supercomputer that's in your pocket, that they're carrying around in their pocket, you're carrying around in your pocket, gives access to your children 24 hours a day. Strangers over the internet, strangers all over the world have access to your kids now. So keep that in mind as you continue raising your kids throughout this life. So that's about all we've got. Went longer than I thought we would. I thought it was going to be a short episode, but we actually ended up going way longer than I thought because we talked about a really important social and cultural issue. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day. This has been the Twins with the Owasso Live. This was the Morning Loop. I hope God bless y'all, and we will see you next time.
See you later, everybody.